Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just a little bit.
I think it might be still loading. Good morning. There we go. I think both lives are up and running.
I'll just tag everyone quick.
So Brittany's just going to tag everyone. It's both of us today, which is great. So everyone say hi to Brittany this morning.
Good morning, everyone. All right, yeah. So we're gonna do a live masterclass today. So we will do one today. So it's Wednesday today, and then we'll also do one on Friday.
Friday morning as well.
Because there was just a few different votes in both of our groups.
Yeah, a lot of you voted for a variety or various different master classes that we can do. So the ones we've decided on for this week. So today we'll be talking about fat loss myths that keep women stuck in their journeys. And then on Friday, we're probably going to do the weekend survival guide, which
right before the weekend,
which makes perfect sense because it's right before the weekend, exactly. So that's what we're going to do this week. So there'll be 2 master classes this week, today and on Friday. So obviously, if you're not here right now, no big deal. It's 8 a.m. on a Wednesday, so maybe you're getting ready for work or something like that. Yeah. But if you do watch later, make sure you smash replay in the comment section and comment replay and let us know if you watch these afterwards. Yeah.
So today we want to talk about just like these top myths that I guess we know of and we've seen over our years of coaching and obviously just being in the industry, kind of just like myths, quick fixes that we find or we've heard lots of women specifically kind of get drawn to in order to see those fast results. And so we kind of just want to go over them and just share our expertise on it.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. We'll try to focus on a few big ones, but not only over the years have we heard a lot of these myths, but we still hear them and we still see them all the time. And it doesn't really change. And people in our family are always talking about some of these myths.
Yeah.
And that's okay because we're here to learn and we're here to understand these things. It's one thing to just get the results you want to get in your fitness journey. It's another thing to completely change your lifestyle and understand, these non-negotiables essentially so that, you can keep doing this for the rest of your life.
And if you, and also too, we never judge as well. Sometimes we have clients ask us or even people who aren't clients, hey, well, what do you think about this or that? And it comes from a place of them just asking and wanting to learn, and that's totally okay. And it's not a bad thing or anything like that, because if you see things on the internet or you do your own research, there's so much out there, there's so much information. And so I think the best thing for anyone to do is, especially our clients, is just ask us, specifically if they saw something and they want to learn more, why this maybe isn't a good option, versus this,
absolutely. Yeah. There are a few people tuning in here. Hello, T-Ray. How's it going? How's it going this morning? I hope all of you are having an awesome Wednesday morning here. If there's any questions you have, please drop in the comments and we will answer them either live here.
Yeah, I'll try to keep a look at the comments.
Try to keep a look at the comments because sometimes they don't flow in while we're doing these master classes, which is a little weird, but that's okay. So we'll get to your questions. So yeah, there is quite a few things we have down as myths. So one of the biggest things that we'll go over first and foremost is eating less and less, equals faster fat loss. Okay, so restricting yourself to a point where you're eating very, very small amounts of calories in order to lose weight. This is a very common one. Yeah. We've helped lots of women over the years come into our program, come into our ecosystem, and have that exact issue where they're coming in and they're like, oh yeah, I've been eating 900, 1,000, 1,100 calories and I can't lose weight. I've tried everything, I'm whatever their weight is and I want to be here and I can't get there no matter how hard I try. I just keep restricting calories and there's a lot of reasons why this is a myth. The first and foremost, if you actually were eating 900 calories a day. I was just going to say that. If you actually were eating 900 calories a day, you were seriously tracking it down to the gram and you absolutely 100% knew you were eating 900 calories a day, including on weekends, which we'll get to in a sec here because that's what kind of blows this myth out of the water. You would be dropping weight extremely fast. Also, your body would start to get very inflamed. Your body would start to, there's that potential to hold on to a little bit of water and things like that because your body is essentially stressed out. You're not feeding it enough, right? And on top of that as well, I would challenge you to look at your lifestyle from an active standpoint. So how active are you? Are you getting a lot of steps in? Are you just kind of sitting around and just restricting? How does that look? And then last but not least, on the weekends, I almost guarantee, because this this is what we've seen with anyone that said that, anyone that comes into our program or we've talked to in person, helped out, if they're like, oh yeah, I only eat 900 calories, I can't lose weight, or 1,011, whatever it is, a really small amount. Then we're like, well, how do your weekends look, right? And then they're like, well, I mean, I enjoy myself on my weekends, you know. I'm like, well, how does that look though? And then they'll kind of describe how, oh, well, Fridays and Saturdays I go, hang out with my husband, or we go out to here, or I hang out with my girlfriends and we do this, and so it's like that kind of just like, who knows how many calories you're eating on the weekends, right? If you're not really tracking. And then then we question, like, are you actually eating 900 calories? Because if you were eating 900 calories, you would be like starving. Like, you would be starving. Trust me, it would be very, very hard for you to go about your day-to-day normally without having like serious energy crashes and things like that.
We're looking at each other like this because he said exactly what I was gonna say, which is like, yeah, we're on the same page here. So the reason, we see this a lot coming into our program, or just like with people in our life in general, is that like somebody will say like, well, I only eat 1,000 calories per day, and maybe they do like Monday through Friday. But like Dylan said, it's always probably a different story on the weekend, or if they're actually tracking their food, they're doing something inaccurately, where they're maybe not tracking oils, or they're not tracking a certain meal and things like that. And then we actually go to track it and they're like, oh, actually I'm at like 2,000 calories a day. What? I thought I was only eating 1,000 calories. Or it's that binge cycle where maybe some days they are actually eating the 1,000 calories, but then other days they're binging. And then when you look at it on a weekly average, you're actually eating more calories and you're actually in like a surplus.
That's right.
So that's just our experience of what we've seen. So it's never going to be sustainable if you're on some like 900, 1,000 calorie diet. Because eventually your body needs that food in order to function, right? So.
Yeah. So that's a big one. So if you are someone who feels like they're eating a very small amount of calories and not losing weight, I challenge you to look at those variables. So number one, look at if you're actually eating that much, right? Are you cooking with extra oils? Are you adding extra fat sources to your meals without tracking? Are you taking little bites of things? You know what I mean? That's a big one. That's such an underrated one. Like, are you, like, if you're, grating cheese is a big one. Grating cheese is a big one. If you're grating cheese and you're prepping it, or you have a big thing and then you're grabbing handfuls of cheese, it could, tally up an extra 100, 200 calories. And if your caloric requirement to stay in a deficit sustainably is something around 1,600 to 1,800 calories, notice how that's like double of what I just said, right? Like, by the way, that's how much you should be eating sustainably anyways, give or take, depending on who you are. But if that's your goal, if your goal calories are around 1,600, 1,700, 1,800, around that range, well, having an extra 100 to 200 calories just from taking little bites of things, and another 100 to 200 calories of extra oil can tally up quick. If you're not measuring your oil, like, you can put a little bit in a pan, it could easily be more than a tablespoon for all you know. Trust me, like, it adds up very quick. And then all of a sudden you've had 400, 500 extra calories, give or take. And it's just from little instances like that don't even make a difference in your day. And that's the key. Like, they don't really make a difference in your day. It's not like you're sitting down and you're enjoying a snack, or you have a planned meal with your husband or your spouse or your partner, your friends, whatever, right? Like, it's literally just, you're just grabbing cheese, or you're just adding a little bit more butter, a little bit more oil, right? So keep in mind, those are the killers for sure. And then your weekends, right? Audit your weekends. I'm not saying you have to be perfect, and like, we're doing the weekend survival guide on Fridays, so that's when we'll really dive into that a little bit deeper. But just see how your weekends look. Like, are you going out a lot? Are you drinking a lot of alcohol? Like, are you partying? You having a good time? Like, what is it, right? Like, those are things you need to maybe hone in on a little bit if you want to get to where you need to go. Okay, so that's the whole first myth there, blown out of the water right there. And if you have any questions about the myth, let us know. We'll put your mind at ease.
So the second one is like, carbs makes you fat, or carbs makes you gain weight, or
this is like the most. I swear this is the most common myth I've ever heard. Like, I have never heard a myth more commonly said than this one. And it's not even just carbs make you fat. It's people like talk as if carbs are some sort of like an enemy, or they're bad. People will be like, oh, I tried cutting carbs, or I've been cutting carbs, or I've been lowering my carb intake. There's a lot of carbs in rice. I don't know if I can have rice. It's like, all of that is like your mind has been kind of corrupted a little bit by maybe potentially some other influencers you've been following, or maybe some things you've been reading here and there, because there are like there are very like famous, like if we're talking about, me and Brittany always joke about this, like celebrity, Brittany watches when Brittany has downtime, Brittany watches a lot of those celebrity shows. And
let
those
me know
are,
if anybody else does like a
surely some of you do.
Real Housewives.
Surely some of you do, okay? And yeah, that
I
Brittany,
kind of skip past all the blowouts and stuff, but it's just a fun background.
full stop at like 9 at night when everything kind of slows down. Brittany will.
Guilty
That's all I'll hear
pleasure.
from the other room sometimes, right? I mean, I'm in here, in the office, whatever, and then Brittany's in there. So everyone has their interests, right? But nonetheless, we always joke, or I always joke when I come in there, is like you always see these like top of the line celebrity coaches and holistic nutrition experts and things, and those are the people, oddly enough, that are suggesting like, honey, you shouldn't have carbs, or you shouldn't have this, right? Things like that. And so you want to keep in mind that a lot of that is just coming from hocus pocus BS, because carbs are not the enemy. That's actually quite the opposite.
Taking out like a macronutrient is actually really dangerous.
Very dangerous. Dangerous for many, many reasons.
Yeah. Dangerous on your mind and your health.
Yeah, and just like your your habits in general, right? Like, just like people, or just like women that have come into our program and have been eating very low amounts of calories, we've also seen an equal amount of women that have come into our program and now either want to try keto, have done keto and failed multiple times, or are interested in like cutting carbs. Like we've seen this so many times. And I'll tell you why carbs are not the enemy, okay? They never have been and they never will be. Okay, so if you remember some of my my macro master classes, and we'll keep doing these as we go to refresh your memory, fats, carbs, and protein, those three macronutrients make up a calorie, okay? So you're eating 2,000 calories a day. That is made up of fats, carbs, and proteins, okay? Each of those macronutrients have a caloric value. If I was in a class right now, I'd be like, hey, someone put up their hand and tell me what it is. Someone would be able to answer me right now. But 9 calories per gram of fat, okay? 4 calories per gram of carb and protein. So what does that say to you, right? Carbs are lower in calories per gram than fat, okay? And they're the exact same as protein. And because calories in versus calories out, that is the most, if someone said like you have to explain weight loss in like one sentence, it's calories in versus calories out. That means if you eat less calories than your body requires to stay the same weight, you will lose weight. No ands, ifs, or buts. If you know for a fact this is how much calories I've been eating every single day, right? This is at the very basic level. I'm not talking about digestion. I'm not talking about like intolerances. I'm not talking about bloat or anything like that. I'm just talking about at the basic level, okay? You will lose weight. So why am I telling this? Is because cutting out carbohydrates isn't going to make you magically lose weight faster. Carbohydrates do hold water. Like 1 gram of carbohydrate holds about 3 grams of water. But even then, like, in your weight loss journey, like that is the least of your worries, is holding water from carbohydrates. You'd have to eat so many carbohydrates, such an abundance of them. You'd have to be in a surplus. You'd have to be eating so much more calories than your body requires to stay the same weight to start to see that water holding, side effect of carbs. And even then, you're not going to see it. So with that being said, like cutting out carbs is not going to help you lose weight. It's actually going to make things so much harder on you.
So temporarily on the scale, you might see it drop because obviously you're cutting those carbohydrates, but eventually, probably very early on in your carb cutting journey, you're going to get super hungry and you're going to get super low energy.
Yeah, it happens every time.
And
it happens every single time.
Then if you binge on carbs, you'll see the scale go up significantly. And it's not that you gained like 5 pounds in one night. It's that obviously your body's holding on to water because it was deprived of carbs.
Exactly. See?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the other thing too is I always like to explain this. My analogy is always like a bodybuilding prep, because we have some prep clients and we've both prepped and things like that. So with carb cutting, if you do it, and you've seen it, probably people on the internet do keto the right way, where they get to the point where they're doing high fat, low carb, but eventually they have to reverse diet out of that. And that's like reverse dieting out of like a bodybuilding prep. When somebody's super lean, if they just go back to eating normally, they are going to gain weight so fast. And it's happened to me before. When I first did my bodybuilding prep, I gained 30 pounds in like a couple weeks because I didn't know at the time, I was very young, what reverse dieting is, and my coach didn't teach me that. And so with something like keto, if somebody did do it the right way, they would need to reverse diet out of that very slowly over like months.
Yeah.
And so like the average person doesn't even know what that entails and how strict you need to be on that type of diet. It's very, very hard, and that's why we don't recommend like a low carb
Yeah,
diet.
Brittany, I mean, that was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
That was like, Brittany couldn't have explained it better. Like, that was actually amazing, like the way you just described. Like, seriously, that's exactly what it is. Like, it requires a ridiculous amount of discipline to reverse diet out of a bodybuilding prep, and I don't even want to talk about that today because that's completely irrelevant. But so, with that being said, reversing out of a low carb diet or removing carbohydrates altogether, it's very, very, very difficult. It's very, very hard. I would argue it's way harder than just accepting that you need to be in a calorie deficit for an extended period of time to lose weight, okay? Trust me, it is very, very hard. I actually have a guy, I've been working with him for many years, like we might be going on 4 years now almost, which is awesome. And he just uses me to keep him in check, essentially. Great guy, awesome guy. I won't say his name, but he's great. So with that being said, he wanted to do carnivore really bad. Like, he was like pressing me, hey man, let's try it out. My brother's doing it, it's working for him. Please, 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 can we do it? And I'm very collaborative, so I'm like, look man, I'll explain all the cons of why this could possibly go wrong for you,
and
but
why
you know,
I
don't suggest doing, restricting carbohydrates so heavily, because carnivores, you're literally just eating animal products and meat products. You're not eating any carbohydrates whatsoever, unless a little bit of carbohydrates are coming from like residual honey, or like you're not even supposed to eat fruit. I was trying to encourage him to, but anyways, not a problem. But he did carnivore for probably 2 to 3 weeks, and then went out with friends, binged at a restaurant. He's like, oh, I kind of screwed up. I had a couple cheat meals this week. I'm like, well, you have to get, for this to work for an extended period of time, you have to stick with it. It's so limited, right? I told you how limited it was. You know, we were kind of going back and forth. And ultimately, it just got to the point where his weeks started to just progressively get more and more, like, he was just eating whatever he wanted. So I was like, look, we have to have a conversation here. Had a phone call with him, went over like why it's probably a good idea if we just go back to what we were doing prior, and then that's where we are now. So keep that in mind. Like,
he's never looked better now.
No, he looks fantastic. Yeah, he looks really good. But like, the point is like, that's why restricting carbohydrates altogether is a bad idea. It would be like restricting fat. Have you ever heard of a program where you restrict fat? Probably not, because if you restricted fat, your hormones would be screwed. You'd have no hormone, like your hormonal panel would be so messed up. Like in bodybuilding preps, I don't want to go too deep into this at all, but like, if you were to restrict all of someone's fat with which happens to a lot of athletes in order to get extremely lean, like just like the extreme level of leanness required for a bodybuilder. Sorry, I just hit your elbow. Like, their hormones are tanked. Like, when the show's over, like, they go get blood work done, like, things are just out of whack, completely out of whack, right? And that's just another example. I'm trying to get you all to realize, like, and if you restricted protein, you're not going to build any muscle or retain any muscle or recover from any workouts, right? Do you see how all of these macronutrients serve a very important purpose in our body? Carbs are responsible for short-term energy. If you don't have carbs in your body, you're gonna be drained of energy. And then people who do keto for a long period of time, like the 1% of them who continue to do it forever somehow, because who wants to get rid of carbs? I would hate it. I would never want to do that. They'll claim like, oh, I'm in ketosis, like the fat is taking over my energy reserves and things like that. But ultimately, like, they go out to eat, they go out with family, they have kids, like, oh, dad's not going to eat any carbs. Like, this is ridiculous, right? Or mom's not going to eat any carbs, right? So you got to think, like, carbohydrates are equally, they're all equally important, and they all serve very important functions in the body. So do not cut carbs. Myth blown there as well.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So, and if you have any questions on any of these topics that we're talking about, just comment. Even if we aren't live anymore, we will get back to you.
You can also message us if you want to like dive deep into stuff.
Yeah. So number 3 is more cardio equals better results. So again, this is a very common one that we hear. Like,
these are great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brittany prepares these quite well.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. Yeah.
So
that's good.
Cardio is a great tool if we ever hit like a plateau, or we want to, you were having maybe slow weight loss, we adding in a little bit of cardio. And when we say cardio for us, like, cardio is like walking on a treadmill incline. It's not like or doing a little bit of stairs, elliptical, things like that. It's not like full on like running or anything like that for normally what we don't do that. But so adding in cardio in that way, like after a workout a couple times a week to speed up fat loss, that's fine. But like doing hours of cardio a day is like you will not get the physique that you're wanting. That's where that like strength training comes in, obviously.
Yeah, and I think that's more of like a panic button that people tend to hit. Yeah. Right? Like if someone like this almost fits in the same category as someone who restricts calories, right? Or thinks they're restricting calories down to like 1,000. Right? It's very common. This is like almost like a feedback loop that people get stuck in, where it's like, I'm eating 900 calories. Why am I not losing weight? Not knowing that they haven't really audited their caloric intake really in depth, and they're not being very accurate with their tracking, or they're kind of throwing their progress away on the weekend. So they don't remember, if you don't understand certain things, you're going to believe that you're doing everything correctly, right? So if there's someone who believes they're truly eating 900 calories a day, okay, what ends up happening is like, I'm not losing weight. I'm not losing weight. What's going on? I'm not losing weight, right? And then they start to combine that with endless hours of cardio. So like I've seen some people come in where it's like, oh, I do like 90 to 120 minutes. Like, they're doing like an hour and a half to 2 hours.
And at that point, it's like you're eventually burning through muscle, which you don't like that. If you know Dylan and I, a big thing is like with weight loss, you're going to always lose a little bit of muscle if you have a big weight loss goal, but you want to make sure you're doing it sustainably so that you don't lose like as much muscle as possible, if that makes sense. And if you're doing hours of cardio, like it's like you're going into those muscle reserves, and like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes 100% sense. Absolutely. And that's super true, because one thing I notice is like if someone comes into the program, someone is asking us questions, and that's the loop they're stuck in. They're stuck in that loop of, I'm restricting myself calorically during the week and then kind of binging on weekends, or I'm not really being accurate with my tracking. And they're combining that with endless hours of cardio, which, by the way, we all have. There's only a certain amount of time in the day, right? Some people like have crazy commitments, like kids or crazy jobs or things like that, and so a lot of people, like, if that's their workout is just cardio, chances are they're not doing weight training, or they're not doing weight training properly. And what this creates is a physique that is like kind of soft, not a lot of muscle, not a lot of fullness, not a lot of density, kind of flat looking, right? And there's nothing wrong with this. Just on a side note as well, because me and Brittany don't judge or anything like that. Like, I've worked with lots of people as well who are like, I want to get ready for a first responder or a marathon or stuff. That's a completely different goal, right? Where it's like your time, your pace, your overall distance, things like that matter more than your physique, right? Those are performance goals. And we're not talking about performance goals. We're talking about weight loss goals and physique goals, right? Which is majority of the people we work with. But at the same notion, like, just so you know, I do work with lots of athletes as well. And athletes might have a little bit of a different, they don't really care about how they look too much, right?
Yeah, it's more of a performance.
It's like all the best athletes in the world. You all know I love to do this all the time compared to the extremes, but the best athletes in the world, none of them really care too much about how they look. It's about how they perform, right? So that's a different story, okay? We're not talking about performance here. We're talking about solely about weight loss and physique goals, okay? How we look and how we feel. Okay, and I know if that's the feedback loop you're in, where you're doing endless hours of cardio all the time, you're not going to feel very good, right? Because you think it's like a hamster. It's really like a hamster running in a wheel, right? They're not really getting anywhere, right? And the same goes with you if you're doing this, because when you're done that 2-hour grueling treadmill session, right? When you're like holding on for dear life at the end because you can barely stay on it, you get off and then you look at yourself and you're like, oh, why isn't anything changing, right? You notice how like that's kind of the third part of this loop, is like that instant gratification. You're like, I'm cutting calories, I'm doing hours of cardio, why is nothing happening? Every time I get on the scale, nothing changes, right? You start to get almost like obsessed with it, right? When in reality, you just need to do less. You need to do less.
So think about it as like your strength training workouts are like number one, and then those cardio sessions after or at a different time during your day, never before, are just like supplementation to help with fat loss.
That's right.
It.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so this one is a good one I wanted to bring up. So quick fixes like detox teas, cleanses, fat burners.
Oh, this one's
like
easy.
That. So,
this is an easy one.
Yeah, so I remember I was 16, I think, and I used to order these packages of, it was like green tea, fat loss coffee. And because at the time I was young, and if you've ever had like an experience as like women, as like a teenager, as a young woman, with like some sort of like detox teas, things like that, please let me know in the comments or message me, because I was there too. So yeah, I was 16. And I remember I was so self-conscious about my weight, and I was like, okay, I don't know, obviously at the time, what to do. So I was getting, at the time, ads for this coffee, and I would order it, and I had like a French press, and I would make this coffee, and it was so gross, and I would drink it multiple times a day, and what it was really doing was just stripping me of like water. And anyways, I would like lose on the scale, and I would be so happy. But yeah, I just wanted to note on that, like I went through that as a young girl, and I went through kind of those quick fixes and detox teas, but I'm telling you right now, they're not gonna do anything for your long-term success.
No, and like what Brittany's getting at too is like when, because I met Brittany when we were 18, we've been together for 10 years now, but like when I first met her, I had already been doing, like I'd already been immersing myself in fitness for 4 years, since I was 14 years old. Yeah. And so we kind of started to learn, like get really deep into the research side of things together. And like those detox teas, what they inevitably do is it goes back to the restrictive behavior I just talked about, right? Like people who take detox teas or cleanses or things like that, that's all they're drinking for like days, right? And I'm assuming, because I've never done any of these and I never will, because it's all a gimmick at the end of the day. Remember, calories in versus calories out, everything associated with that. I'm not going to go deep into it. I'm just pointing it out that these detoxes, these cleanses, right? Most likely what they're recommending you to do is like, just drink this tea for 3 days or a week straight. And like your calorie amount is so low. So maybe you do lose weight. Maybe you do, it's like an enema almost, you know what I mean? It's kind of gross.
Really
like,
and yeah, it's an appetite suppressant. Yeah.
It does all these things, but you're not fueling your body in this time. It's not like you're supplementing a tea with your current regime or something like that, right? It's like that's all you're drinking, right? And so you're just restricting yourself of calories. It's all you're doing, right? It's not like some magic pill. It's just like, you know what I mean? It's just like you're not eating enough calories for your body at all, because you're so obsessed with like, I need to lose weight right now, I'm going to do this detox tea, and it tells me all I need to do is drink this tea, and then all of a sudden you're starving, and then you binge, and the cycle continues. It'll never end. It's not sustainable. I have never in my entire life, okay, in 14 years of being in fitness, like I have never once seen someone do a detox tea, a cleanse, or anything for that matter, and it's like that's what's stuck with them for life. Like I've never seen that in my life, and I've heard a lot of stories about people doing detox teas and cleanses and things like that, but ultimately, with little to no success, and it's usually just a gimmick. It's usually very expensive.
I'm searching, like I wanted to like, so in 2024, the weight loss and like the weight loss market is worth $328 billion. And so with that being said, like, you have to remember, like, this space is worth so much money, and people will sell you stuff that you do not need and that does not actually work. And I guarantee you nowadays, those teas, I've never seen those teas on my feed, because of course we don't get ads for them or anything like that. But those teas are probably so expensive now, and like weight loss stuff, like stuff like that.
Like, yeah. I don't know, 10 packets of tea for like $100 and something or something, and yeah.
Like so if you guys ever have any questions, because we've had clients do this, they'll get an ad for like some sort of weight loss gimmick or whatever, and they'll send it to us, and they're like, tell me your thoughts on this, and then we'll explain our thoughts on it.
Yeah.
But you're free to do that as well. But we
the only people that benefit from those detox teas are the companies that make them. You know what I mean? Like they're making tons of money off you, and there's no results. They don't care about you, right? There's no accountability. There's no teaching you. They're just like, hey, drink this.
Yeah.
Everything will be fine, right? The same goes with fat burners. Fat burners are just designed to suppress your appetite. If you're in a fat loss phase and you're doing everything correctly, and you want a little bit additional appetite suppression, I don't see overall like a huge problem with like utilizing a fat burner like Hydroxcut or something like that. But is it like necessary, and would I recommend it, if that makes sense? The answer is no, right? And that's because, again, they're very expensive, and most people view fat burner pills or fat burners like in general as like that's what's actually allowing them to lose fat, but that's not the case. all it does is suppress your appetite. I used to work in an oil and gas company when I was like 18, 19 years old. And a guy that I'm buddies with now, he lost like 50 pounds. He did this fitness competition thing, like not like competing on stage. It was just like a weight loss thing. And he was using, I forget the company. It's just like a hydroxycut derivative company. He was just taking fat burners and he was taking them all day, and like it helped him restrict his calories. But again, like he was barely eating. This guy's barely eating. So like, again, those are like the side effects and the problems with these detoxes and cleanses. People think because I'm taking this product, it's a magic bullet and I'm not going to eat, or I'm going to restrict my calories. And then ultimately that's the reason they're losing weight, is because they're barely eating, right? They're actually barely eating. Like they're barely sustaining their own fuel, right? And then their energy is really low, but because they're taking these fat burners, there's so much caffeine and there's so much stimulants in fat burners themselves that, yeah, when you take them, like I remember one day we were joking around in the morning and he's like, here, just try a couple. I'm like, fine, just here, I'll take a couple of them. It's not going to kill me. And when they digested, all I felt was like a high amount of energy. It felt like I was on pre-workout, right? So I was like, I get it. Like, it suppresses your appetite and it gets you wired. So you know what I mean? You just go all day because you're barely eating, right? Or at least that's the goal with these things, I think. So yeah, not sustainable is the goal here, right? Or is the point we're trying to make here, okay? None of this stuff is sustainable and none of it actually works.
It's not going to be a magic.
It's not going to do anything to you.
One thing I like to say all the time to clients and just to anyone in general is, if it sounds too good to be true, which most things are. So if somebody comes to you with a pill or whatever that's going to magically like solve all your problems, it's probably not.
Right,
I guess the only time that I guess a pill would solve it is if it was like a pharmaceutical pill from your doctor, like that.
Yeah, we're not talking about like things like that.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about like
I'm talking about store-bought supplement stuff, like from Supplement King or Supplement World or Popeyes or any supplement store for that matter.
Teas, things
doesn't
like
matter. Yeah, so detox teas, cleanses, and fat burners. We're not talking about pharmaceutical intervention or anything like that here. Okay?
Yeah.
Where there's like, because like obviously with the pharmaceutical side of things, like there's products that actually will restrict your appetite to a point where it'll help a lot. It'll help certain people, but we're not there, and we're not going to worry about that. So,
yeah. So number 5 is cutting out wine, chocolate, or eating out completely. So this is a common one, and it goes to that all or nothing mindset, which I actually naturally have an all or nothing mindset, and I've had to like really train myself not to be, and it's very hard. But we have lots of people who they'll come in and be like, oh, so like, yeah, I'm completely forever cutting out my wine that I like to enjoy maybe once a week. I'm never having chocolate again, and I'll never eat out again. And so we'll be like, okay. So obviously that's an all or nothing mindset, and it's eventually not going to work, because I don't know about you, but that wouldn't be a life worth living. Like never, like if somebody told me you could never eat out again, like I would be like, well, no, I don't. Like, I definitely want to eat out at some point again. I like food. Right. I'm a human, right? I like food. If you're somebody so wine is obviously a different story. If you're somebody who actually enjoys wine, and you're saying it's something that you want to cut out, but you actually don't. And then chocolate's a big one too, where people are like, I can never have chocolate again. Well, no, we can portion control it and have chocolate once in a while and things like that. So we hear that lots coming into the program, is like, I'm going to completely stop this forever.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I agree with Brittany. Like, if I couldn't eat out ever again, like, I don't know if that's really.
I don't think
that's
pretty.
Yeah, like me and Brittany plan our cheat meals ahead of time, and I think that's where I'm going to go with this as well. Is like, if you want to keep things like chocolate, wine, and eating out in your plan, there's nothing wrong with that. You should track what you're having. Number one, you should know how to track, because that's the biggest thing. Like, and you need to show some self-restraint. Just full stop. You need to show some self-restraint. Yes, you can get lower calorie alternatives. You can get like skinny wines. I'm sure that, or skinny coolers or something if you're drinking, and that will help. But like the goal is like, you want to still show some restraint in terms of how many calories you're consuming, right? So like, if you want to have wine every weekend, once a week or something like that, that's fine. But notice how this is like a moderate amount, right? You know what I mean? Like, if you're going from drinking like a bottle of wine like every second day or something excessive, like yeah, like you're going to have to reduce your intake. Like I mean, it's going to be very rare. It's going to be very hard for you to get to your fitness goals if you're consuming like excessive amounts of wine and then just kind of eating whatever you want. You know what I mean? So the same goes with chocolate. Is like, we're talking specifically about the things she said, by the way. So chocolate, any snack for that matter, candy, chips, whatever. You need to track it. You need to know how much you're consuming, and you need to show some self-restraint. So one thing me and Brittany like to do is we'll have ice cream in the freezer, right? And then we won't eat it all week. And then if we have a cheat meal, so like, we'll plan to go here on Saturday, here's the food we'll order there. Then we'll come home and then we'll share like a small bowl of ice cream together, and we're satisfied. We feel good after. But I know this from experience when I was younger. When I was younger, like I would say, like, yeah, when I was 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, even around that, like the whole first 5 to 6 years, my cheat meals used to be like infinite. Like I would eat whatever I wanted to. And then I would notice like my fitness goals would be somewhat falling short, or at least shorter than I wanted them to. And it's because I was just going absolutely nuts, right? And I wasn't really focused on tracking or understanding what I was eating or planning these things ahead of time. Right. And so for little snacks like ice cream that you buy from the store, or chocolates or candy or something, or chips, you can fit those into your daily requirements. Like you can. I remember one time I was getting very lean for whatever reason, like an event or something like that. And so I was in a cut, and I fit in a blueberry muffin. I don't know why I did that, but I fit in a blueberry muffin every single day. And it like
works with your macros?
It worked with me. It worked for me because I really like blueberry muffins. I don't know why. But anyways, that's a good example of that.
And then the eating outside of things, it's actually really helpful to learn how to eat out sustainably and still achieve your goals. So completely avoiding it is eventually you're going to eat out, right? So learning how to actually do that and make it work for sure.
That's right. Yeah.
And then side note about the wine thing, Dylan and I we don't drink, and neither does my mom's side of the family. And so when I say cutting out wine, if you don't drink, I don't mean obviously like
start drinking.
Yeah. Wine is something obviously some people do not drink, which is totally fine. But I mean, for people who are like, they like to have wine here and there on the weekends type of thing, cutting it out completely if you don't want to is something where it's like, well, let's just learn how to have it here and there at your events that you do like to have it at.
Yeah. Exactly. Like alcohol consumption, assuming you're doing it for a social reason or even relaxation reasons or something like that, if you must keep it in your life, because we have worked with people where they're like, I will never get rid of my wine habit, that's fine.
Which is like, that's their choice.
But we must reduce it, and we must control it in a way where, there's a certain day or series of days where you're consuming the wine, and you're consuming it in a way where it fits in your calorie requirements, and you're not going overboard where you're like sloppy drunk, multiple times a week. Because ultimately, like, and that's a whole nother masterclass. We can talk about alcohol and its function in the body. But like, alcohol does more than just like if you get really, really hammered one night, we've all been there. Like, yes, me and Brittany don't drink now, but we have, like, I've had my days.
We've drank in the past.
I think everyone has. And when you get really, really intoxicated, you consume tons of alcohol. You're not making rash decisions. You're probably eating whatever you want. I've never met someone who's like down 6 beers and then is like not down to order pizza or something.
Yeah. Well, you definitely do a separate masterclass just on alcohol in the body and results.
Yeah, because alcohol it can be controlled to a point where you can fit it in, no doubt about it, 100%. But you must show self-restraint. There's no way around that. I'm not going to beat around the bush with that. Like that's exactly how you must approach alcohol if you are consuming it, is you must show self-restraint and you must control your intake. Because yes, there's 100% calories in alcohol and like wines and things like that, but on top of that, alcohol does other things in the body that will restrict our progress like for days to come, kind of thing. So
side note too, we've worked with lots of clients who they start the program and they actually stop drinking altogether.
Yeah, that's they really accept that they're doing this.
But they really enjoy it because maybe they didn't really drink before, or maybe their goal was to stop drinking. We've had that lots too, and we also definitely support that for sure, because that's what we did. So
absolutely.
Okay, last one is just endless program hopping or starting over, or kind of like relying on challenges like 30-day challenges, things like that.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah. Last one here.
Yeah. So this is just like this is just pretty much injecting yourself with motivation sparingly throughout the year to get results. But the second these little challenges end, or you maybe you hire a coach for a short amount of time, you go to another coach, you go to another coach, you just full stop, whoever you hire, you must trust them, okay, for long periods of time, because they have your best interest in mind, whoever it is you go with, right? Very important that you do that. And if you're always jumping around, every coach is going to have different methods. Every coach is going to teach you something different. Every coach is going to have a different mindset around certain things, certain processes. Okay, the same goes with these little challenges. If you're doing all these challenges online, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, oh, hey, kudos to you. At least you're doing something. But what's going to happen is you create this sort of mindset around like starting and stopping and starting and stopping and starting and stopping, and that's not good, because what inevitably happens is you just stay the same. Okay, maybe you lose 5 pounds, you gain it back. You lose 5 pounds, you gain it back. Then it goes back to that restrictive mindset of I've tried everything and nothing is working. When in reality, you just haven't found something sustainable. You haven't had a process created for you that's sustainable, specific to you, because everybody is different, okay? You know what I mean? There's no one size fits all method or one size fits, you know, if everyone does this, they'll be great. You know what I mean? Like there's no one size fits all, you know, like I said, process or whatever, that's going to get you where you need to be ultimately for the rest of your life. And that's the goal. That's what me and Brittany do. And that's what me and Brittany are really big on, is like, we want to teach you your own method, like be collaborative with us, and we create the perfect lifestyle for you. That's completely different. Everyone is completely different. Everyone's brain ticks differently. Okay. And so if you're always doing different challenges, you're always jumping to different coaches, you're always hiring different trainers, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, hey, at least you're doing something, but just understand that it's going to create that loop of, like, I'm not working with someone anymore, I'm going to stop. Or this guy taught me one thing, this guy taught me another thing, this guy taught me another thing. What the hell is going on? I'm getting so much conflicting information, which is another big one that kind of is another myth that falls into this one. It's like, there's so much information everywhere. Who can I trust, right? But you need to trust whoever, you know, you hire, whatever you're doing. And if you're just doing your own research, then I can understand why you're getting confused. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But like, does that all make sense? Hope that kind of like, does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm not confusing.
I also want to note too, like sometimes if you ever see like 6-week challenges or like 30-day challenges and stuff online, again, not a bad thing to do. But we have seen it before where a client comes to us after and they're like, this challenge had me on 1,000 calories a day. And sometimes, unfortunately, in the industry, coaches will do that so that that client loses a lot of weight in a short amount of time so that they have that progress.
That's
and
right,
obviously that's not sustainable. And then you're left after 6 weeks. If you don't sign up for their full coaching, you're kind of left at like, either you're going to go binge and gain all that weight back and plus some, or your hormones are tanked and like
that's a big one. So. Like that's a big one where and this is just because me and Brittany have been in the industry for so long.
Yeah.
Like it's not only that we see this, we know this for a fact.
Yeah, we know this.
There's a lot of companies and coaches, and it's fine. Again, it's fine. I'm so laid back with other people. Like you know what I mean? Everyone at the end of the day, you know, has a method that's somewhat working for them. I get it. But yeah, like what they'll do is they might be like, hey, join my free challenge, 14 days, 21 days, 28 days. You know, at the end of it, you'll win a prize if you lose a certain amount of weight or something like that. But in that time frame, they will restrict your calories. One of the myths we just busted like 20 minutes ago, they'll restrict your calories so low so that you do lose an excessive amount of weight in a short amount of time. And then subconsciously, because you don't know better, you're like, wow, I've lost 5 pounds in, 1 week. This is crazy. And then they'll be like, great, sign up for my plan. We'll lose more weight. And they get stuck in this feedback, and all of a sudden they're being restricted, right? To a point where they're like starving, and it doesn't make sense. Not sustainable, because when they stop the program, they're left wondering, did I even learn anything there? Like I can't just keep doing this for the rest of my life, right? And then they just go right back to where they were before, right? So that's just something we've seen that so many times. So that's why we don't really do, you might notice we don't really do many like 14 or 21 day challenges or things like that, because we're just not going to do something unsustainable for people. It doesn't make any sense.
And we're not saying that definitely not every coach does this or anything.
Yeah, no, we're not saying that at all.
Because we've been in the industry for so long, it's something that we know that happens, and we've had clients come to us afterwards. And so just always be aware of that. Sometimes with those challenges and stuff like that, a short amount of time is they will lower your calories super, super, super low, and then you're left afterwards with gaining that weight back and then needing more help after that. So
that's right. So just keep that in mind if you're doing any of those free challenges, or you're jumping into different groups and things like that. Super easy.
Yeah. So if you guys have any questions, obviously we could go all day on different myths, probably.
Yeah, this is a good one. It's almost 45 minutes
Yeah.
here. So.
And so let us know, message us, comment below. Please let us know if you watch the replay, and we will let you know for a time on Friday that we will do the weekend survival guide.
Yeah, we'll do the weekend survival guide. Brittany, should we see if there's any comments?
Yes.
If there's not, no big deal. Just wanted to see because...
Okay,
let's see here.
So
we got Kelly here.
said,
Says, yeah, I was brainwashed in the 80s and 90s to do all cardio. I think it was the most important. Thanks to you guys, I've rewired my mindset. Well, thank you, Kelly. Kelly's wonderful.
Kelly's been with us.
Kelly's been with us for a long
years.
time. Yeah, she's awesome. And yeah, Kelly, shout out Kelly. You're absolutely awesome.
I can't imagine like
but yeah, I can't imagine your
90s,
time.
80s
I
and
can't
90s.
imagine your time.
My cousin.
I can't imagine your time at all.
Grew up in that time too.
It would be almost impossible to know what was right and what was wrong.
Yeah.
Like really, it would be you'd be relying on magazines and ads and
so that's the one good thing. That's actually really good thing about the internet, though, is there is good information, obviously, on the internet too. So, okay, Ginger said yes. We are so brainwashed in the 90s.
Thank you for teaching us how to unravel all the toxic crap we have stuck in our system. So again, same thing with Ginger here, like. Yeah, like the 80s and 90s. See, like it indoctrinated you to think certain ways, and then it's almost impossible.
I can see how. It's very hard to come out of that mindset because when you were young, you were taught a certain way, right? So
yeah. So nowadays the difference. So back then there was only this much information, this tiny bubble, and like you had to read magazines, or you had to watch ads, or you had to get you're sitting there eating chips, and then an infomercial comes on, and you're like, wow, I want to be like that. You know what I mean? Like that was all you could rely on back then. Now there's like literally infinite amounts of information. You can, you know what I mean? You can Google like, hey, what should I do with this? So it's like you have infinite amount, but that also creates an equally, in my opinion, that it creates an equal issue because then you are like, what do I believe? You got to pick a side, right? You feel like you got to pick a side or something. So what me and Brittany are trying to do ultimately before we let you all go for the day is we're just trying to all teach you that there's certain non-negotiables that everyone needs to follow, right? We've been doing this for so long. And so we've identified like certain non-negotiables that must happen for everyone to get where they need to go in their fitness journey. But ultimately everybody's different and everyone's going to have different schedules, different day-to-days, different meals that they can plan, different training sessions they can do, different types of goals associated with those training sessions. And so ultimately what we're trying to teach you guys, all doesn't matter what group you're in, is we just want you to get from point A to point B in your life. And that's it.
And make it,
and make it sustainable so you can do it for the rest of your life. Yeah, that's it.
What's sustainable for one person, it won't be for the next, and it has to be a custom approach.
That's right. So. Yeah, that's ultimately what we found has been the best.
Yes.
So, but with that being said, amazing masterclass today. Wow. Thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't tuned in, watch the replay, please. We went over a lot of amazing stuff today. We really, really dove deep today, and that was amazing. Thanks for my wonderful fiance and wife here. Fiance and wife. I got to pick one or the other. We're not married quite yet. We're still my fiance, but I call her my wife, and she is sometimes. So, anyways, thanks for Brittany for tuning in, and we'll be back together as a team on Friday. For the weekend weekend survival guide. Yeah.
So hope you guys have a good.
Yeah, I had a great time. I had a great time today. That was great. I hope you all did too. So.
Okay, bye guys. Have a great day.
Bye.